Hello, everybody. I am Andrew Meredith, and I am here with 4 friends, and we are all involved in the new Honor Anthology, which is on Kickstarter right now. And I wanted to sit down with them and talk about some of the stories they have written, some of the stories they've written for the anthology, and just get to know them better. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off in a roundtable fashion. Let's go counterclockwise. Liz, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and telling us all about all the books that you've written from the time you were 12, maybe before that till now, and we'll just take all the time you want.
All right, we'll be here a little while because I've written over 20 books. I've kind of lost count because, some of them are short stories and etc. I write fantasy from epic to cozy. My latest is The Witch at the Edge of the Wood, a cozy fantasy. And then I also have my latest novel is Flames of Gold, which is an epic fantasy, first in a new trilogy. Thank you. And I have several complete series out. And I also write some writers' notebooks for authors. And I designed book covers. I designed these 2 back here. And that's what I do.
Nice. All right. Charles. Oh, that angle. Charles.
Yeah. So Charles Hack, I write in 2 genres. I write in a space opera, military science fiction. First book in that series is Into the Darkness, which has been rebranded here in the last couple of years. We did new covers. There are 3 full-size books and a novella that is in that series. And I just had one come out February of this year. And then the mystery series is totally different. It's a like small town sheriff mystery series set at Lake Tahoe, which is just up the road from where I live. And here's an example of book 2 coming out now. These are called the Hank Lynn Mysteries, and they have that just good old small town sheriff vibe. And so I've been doing that. First book was published in June of 2022, but I've been writing since my adult children were tiny babies. So over 20 some years of actual writing, but first book was published in 22.
Nice. How about you, Bryan?
Hello, I am Bryan Wilson. I'm the author of Power of the Stars series. There are 3 novels and a novella currently written, and they're basically kind of a science fantasy epic. None of these books are skinny; they're all thick, funky boys. I grew up loving stories like just kind of the epics you can think, Wheel of Time, stuff like that. So I put a lot of stuff into my world building and a lot of thought. And the series has been likened to kind of Ender's Game meets Red Rising meets Wheel of Time, stuff like that. And I published 2 years ago. Before that, I've been a reader for 25 plus years now, and I've been writing since I was in my late teens. So we're going on 20 years now, and just breaking into this publishing biz, if you will, and having fun.
Awesome. Tori.
Well, everybody was way more prepared than me, so I have to quick grab my books. So I'm kind of on chapter 2 of my writing career. I started with my first published novel when I was 14, and I published 9 books between the ages of 14 and 19, and I did a lot of conferences and speaking at that time. And then I went to college and got married and started a family, and that kind of put everything on hold for a while. And in 2020, I came out with a dark paranormal fantasy called Phased. And then I have The Bloodstones, which is book 1 in an dark epic fantasy trilogy. And my newest release as of May is a fantasy Western called Cold Silver for Souls, which is about a bounty hunter necromancer in a world inspired by the Yukon Gold Rush. So those are my current works in progress.
Awesome.
Well, I love the cover of that last one.
Thank you. Yeah, Helena did an amazing job.
I love seeing her stuff on Twitter when it comes up in her feed. Yeah. So like I said, I'm Andrew Meredith. I write epic fantasy. I've got Deathless Spaces Book 1 in the Collation Saga. A lot of religious themes, paladins, so on and so forth. And then I have Cozy Fantasy, Quake Creatures, which is all creatures great and small with magic in a fantasy world. And then I've got a Slavic fantasy, which starts with Rice, and then Fourscore, which is a father and son adventure on the road. And I've been publishing since 2021 now. But again, writing since I was 12 too, and wrote terrible garbage books back when I was a kid and a young adult as well, like an actual young adult, and then came back in 2017 and revamped everything, and I got better. So and more coming. So yeah, all right. So we're all in an anthology, the Honor Anthology, and it is listed in links down below, as well as links to all of our lovely guests here. Tell us about how you got involved in the anthology. Let's go the reverse. Tori.
Well, me being in the anthology is kind of your fault, I think, because I know you had talked to Zach previously, and I kind of peripherally knew of Zach, but hadn't really gotten a chance to talk to him yet. And you very kindly put my name forward as an option for when he was looking for authors. And yeah, I'm incredibly, no pun intended, honored to be part of this project. It's been really fun. Like for everybody, the anthology is such a cool final product that we all get to share. But I think what's even cooler is the relationships and stuff that have been building behind the scenes, and us all getting a chance to share resources and meet new people and just get a chance to know everybody, which has been really fun. But yeah, I'm very excited about it. Are we supposed to talk about our story yet, or wait?
Yeah, tell us about your story.
Okay. All right. So my story for the anthology is called The Wood Weaver's Rose. And I tend to write more toward the military fantasy vein. So that was my initial thought, but then I always ask myself the question, but how do I challenge myself with this project? And I decided that I wanted to dig into my relationship with my grandfather. I wanted to tackle honor from a slightly different angle. And my grandfather's been going through some health issues this year. And so it's just it's a very personal story that really has meant a lot to me to write. It was hard to write, but also incredibly rewarding. So I'm very excited for everybody to hopefully get to see a little bit of a different side of me as a writer with this one.
I know that every time I have read your story, which is multiple times, both as a beta reader and then as your audiobook narrator, I have cried every time I've read it, every single time. And not always at the exact same lines, but often at the exact same lines. Thank you. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Brian.
Yeah, as to getting into the anthology, so we all know Zach has kind of been the mastermind of it all, ZS Diamante, and I connected with him probably about 2 years ago. It was actually right around, we were talking before about that giveaway Charles and I did about 2 years ago, and me and Sam Paisley put that giveaway together. It was 10 of us authors, a big Instagram giveaway that we all did, and it went pretty well, was pretty successful, and I think got our names in front of quite a few bookstagrammers. And one of the members that was in it knew Zach, and so after that had ended, shortly after, Zach reached out to me and just wanted to connect, and was just saying, hey, if you ever do anything like that again, hopefully we could do something like that in the future. And from there, we just spawned our friendship, and I think I just got lucky that Zach was reading my first book, The Forsaken Planet, right around when he was putting all of this together, because he reached out to me, and that's when he started telling me about how he was putting the anthology together and how he was reading my book, and he'd love if I'd be a part of it. And yeah, that's how I got involved. I was super, super honored, if you will, to be invited into it, and just very grateful and so excited for it.
Nice.
And my story as to it, it's set in my Power of the Stars universe. It's called The Forsaken Detour. I kind of wanted to connect it to my my story, my first book, and I just had a lot of fun with it. Anytime I've written any of the other stuff, it's always kind of, I've never connected it too much to myself. Maybe the first book a little bit, but this one I just had fun pretending it was me and my two daughters set in the universe that I wrote in, and us going on a little adventure in that universe. And it has no connection whatsoever to the main story. So you don't need to read anything to lead to it. Or you don't need to read this to read my main stuff. It was just me having a lot of fun, kind of with the mysteries and kind of how my story is connected to our real world, and putting that all together into a fun little twist of a tale.
Awesome. That's awesome. So your story is science fiction, correct?
Yes, yeah, science fiction.
Tori,
I like to call it science fantasy because it's
Right.
it's kind of like space fantasy. It's heavily magic involved, stuff like that, but it's set out in space.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's important to note that those who are interested in the Kickstarter, it is a mix of both science fiction and fantasy. I think it's almost even. I know that Zach actually waited to write his story until he had read everybody's, and then chose the genre based on what was lacking. So I think it's pretty close to even. So you're gonna get a chance to read. I know, science fiction is often, it's not unrepresented in the indie community, but it can often be hard to find. So I think it's going to be an opportunity for readers to find some new science fiction authors that they didn't know existed, unfortunately, because the algorithm is so good about hiding what you're looking for until you find it.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
As a sci-fi writer.
Yeah, exactly. So did you write a science fiction too?
Yeah. So and I'll say about Bryan, who's above me here, that his blends, I mean, the Forsaken Planet, it blends so well between the two genres of science fiction fantasy. He's not kidding when he says science fantasy. So I don't know with the other mix of authors in the anthology if there's some other science fantasy types, but I would imagine there's one or two. So we have, fantasy, which is huge in the Kickstarter world and the indie world. I was actually searching this week for some sci-fi Kickstarter books like what we're doing with the anthology, or what Liz has done and Zach's done previously. And there really isn't any. I can't find any, which makes me say, don't do it. Right? Because I was thinking, well, maybe I should do it with my books. But there's not a market for it at this point. Seems to be the fantasy world. So I got involved with the anthology through Zach. And the reason was because I was already familiar with him through Instagram, and we had like some mild connections there. But when I learned that he was formerly in church ministry, that was really interesting and important to me, because I'm in full-time ministry still. So I reached out to him and said, hey, bro, we got to talk. This is awesome. Let's get to know each other. And so it's been great, just kind of, out on the side, getting to know each other. So when it came time for him putting stuff together, I was super blessed and honored to be included, especially as a sci-fi guy, since fantasy is really the driver behind a lot of this. So as I said, my stories are very much space opera. People compare them to the latest or the most common comparison is Star Wars meets Tom Clancy. So it's like big Star Wars sort of, space stuff, no science, it's just space. There's no science in it at all. It's all make believe. And then there are, government conspiracies, and it follows a troop of special forces guys. So it's very character driven in that world. So what I wanted to do, I have a character that I introduced in my novella. It's called Night Terror. And this book, it's a female cyborg character who I really like. And I decided to write her origin story. How did she become a cyborg? Because it's it's mentioned here, but there's nothing to it. So I thought, boy, that would be really neat. And her story is a story of self-sacrifice. And then this renewal as she becomes this cyborg, essentially, after her self-sacrifice. And so that's where the honor came in. And I am just so happy with the story and can't wait for others to read it. and for the future of my my world and my characters. What an opportunity, man.
Yeah, I've read Charles' first book, and it's a fantastic military sci-fi. It's like if you're in the military sci-fi, you're going to get everything you're looking for. In that
Thanks,
book.
man. You listen to Night Terror, so Cash Raider, the main female protagonist there, is the character in my story, which is called Insubordination. So she self-sacrifices against orders, which was fun. And I will say, I'm typically not an anthology reader. I'm not a short story reader. I see anthologies and I'm always like, wow, that's really cool, but I never buy them. I never read them.
Yeah. This
one, I cannot wait to read all of your stories. And I really mean that. It's seeing the stuff that's been, trickling out. I can't wait. And then as I learn more about each of your stories and who you are and what you've written in the past, this is going to be a spectacular book. I just can't wait. Yeah.
Totally
I will say, Charles, based on what you said, I can count 3 people in the chat who I think are going to love your books.
Hey, all right.
I know personally, and I think that they're going to want to check your books out, most certainly.
Awesome.
Liz.
So I've known Zach for a couple of years now, and he reached out to me to have me design his special edition.
Oh, nice.
Garden.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And so I think it was while I was working on this that he twinsies.
Yeah. I'm so glad to hear that, Liz. That's amazing.
Yeah. So while I think I was working on that one, he invited me to the anthology, and I feel like I have to say it because everyone else has. I was very honored. And so I wanted to write a story in my universe of this epic fantasy series, Legends of Gold and Silver. But I didn't want it to follow a main character. I wanted to kind of explore somewhere else in the world. And it's technically a prequel, but it's about a different character. And in the main series, I explore a lot of like elemental magic. As you can see from the cover, it follows a fire mage. And so this story is called Paper Cuts and Portents. And it's kind of a very like close vignette in the epic fantasy landscape. It's about a paper mage who is essentially dishonorably discharged from the like mage training facility by accident. And she kind of falls in with a bad crowd, and she has to essentially make a decision what she's going to do, because she has a lot of these special abilities as a paper mage to do kind of really neat things. And I had a lot of fun writing it because it's just not connected to the main story. So I didn't feel like obligated to make sure it was, anybody's backstory or anything like that. So it's just like a peek into this world. And like Charles, I'm super pumped. I don't normally read anthologies, but I really want to read this one. And I'm really curious what Zach's story is, and like whether he went sci-fi or fantasy. Like, do we even know? I don't know.
I don't know. He might have told me at some point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's sci-fi.
Yeah, I think he said he went sci-fi because I think it was more fantasy than sci-fi in it, so that's why he went that route.
Yeah, we chatted about it a little bit while he was deciding, and went sci-fi. So that'll be interesting.
If it's sci-fi, it's probably set in his. He really wants to write some Star Trek fiction, Star Trek-like fiction, because he's a massive Star Trek Trekkie. I know he's got a really cool world he's developing for that. So I would not be surprised if he puts it in there.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Liz, Paper Mage. I want to hear more, but I'm assuming we're going to need to read your book to find out what that means.
Well, you just need to read the short story.
Excellent. I want to, because that's really intriguing.
And I believe that part of what Zach's doing in the anthology is Liz's story, but then there'll be like some information about where to find more about those characters or writing. So that's really cool too.
Yeah, there's like whole like plates at the end of the book of each of us with like a full author bio information and that sort of thing.
Sweet.
So
Awesome.
it's I've seen the very back of the book and I've seen that and it looks pretty cool. So it'll give us a good
Nice.
good.
It's the advantages of living in Colorado.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago we actually brewed beer together. So I taught him how to brew beer for his next cozy that he's writing.
Oh yeah.
And so we got together and did that, and he was showing off the.
Man, I think I
the
could be.
swag.
Let me know next time because I think I could be there in about 16 hours of driving. So,
how fast are you driving? 16. That's you're gonna be going. You're gonna be flying across Kansas. Of course, everybody can fly across Kansas.
8 to Salt Lake.
Oh, right. You're in Nevada. That's right.
I'm coming from the west. Yeah.
Maybe it's about 8 from here to Salt Lake City.
Oh yeah, easy.
8 to 9.
8 from Salt Lake. Yep.
Yep.
Did do that in a day.
Yeah, you could do it in a day. Yeah, we'll get you out here. Well, maybe we'll do another brew day in like I think during his next Kickstarter, and I don't know, maybe we'll have to have you out.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. So Tori and I have both written in a previous anthology, the Advent of Winter, and lessons learned for myself when I wrote my story in that one, because I wrote everybody's like it's the only story that wasn't depressing, and even though it was a murder mystery, and but no one really liked it, and so because it was way out there, it was a bunch of non-humans, and it just didn't land, and so I had lessons learned when I wrote this one, which I also still wanted to place in the Collation Saga world, and I like writing people I can make miserable, like antagonist type characters. So like I'm known for one particular character everybody hates who reads my books, which is good. I succeeded there. I wanted to write another kind of unlikable but main character. And so the paladins in my world all take different vows. And this particular paladin, Onyager, has taken the vow of silence. So my character cannot talk, but it's from his point of view, first person, as he's telling the story of this mission he sent on to, which is a very, very, very humbling mission sent to like the worst possible station. So it's him being just humbled to the point of being forced to honor things. And so it was a lot of fun to write a silent character who can't talk, trying to interact with people, and told he can't even. Like usually they can't talk. Well, he's put under a secondary extra vow of silence during his pilgrimage. So he can't do anything but nod or shake his head. So he can't even try to communicate. He's supposed to just be silent the whole time and only gives yes and no's. And it's very frustrating. And that's what made it really lovely to write. So
I'll jump in here and say, having read almost all of your collation novels and everything else, it's one of my favorite things that you've written. I love the short story.
You just like that I made someone miserable.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. So I know I was able to get mine at, I think I was able to just slide in at like 9,000 words. So I'm going to bring up the fact that we all had a limit on how many words we could write, right? Because like a short story legally has to fall within like 6,000, and I think 12 is like the upper edge of what's legally a short story versus like a novelette, which is like from 10 to 20. So how did it go for you, Bryan, keeping a limited word count?
It was I am very much like Charles and Liz. I don't read anthologies. I don't really read short stories. I think the last short story I probably read was Scary Stories We Tell in the Dark, whatever that was back in like elementary school.
Good. I love
it.
It
was
book.
Good, but it was probably 20 plus years ago. And I think that's the last time I ever read anything like that. So I was a bit nervous coming into this just because, something I pride myself on in my writing that I think I'm able to do a decent job at writing is just because of how much I've read in my life and how it's been my passion. And so kind of trying to now dive into something that hasn't necessarily been my passion or I'm not used to writing was a little nerve-wracking, but we got it done. I actually just got lucky. I wrote the story and I was right around that 10,000 word limit. And after beta readers, which Andrew, you were one, thank you very much. And edits and stuff like that, I was able to bring it down, and I don't remember the exact, but I ended up with a little bit of a buffer. I was about 9,500, something like that.
Nice.
When it was said and done.
Yeah, it's fun to challenge yourself, right? Give yourself those word counts that you have to stick under. Can you actually pull it off? Where do you got a clip that you normally wouldn't clip because you have 150,000 words to work with usually or whatever?
Yeah.
How about you, Charles? How did you do word count wise?
Yeah, it actually went really well. The way that I had set the story was it was a conversation between my two main characters, the cyborg and my main protagonist of the story, of my other stories. And they were like wasting time on a flight, across space. And he was basically like, tell me your story. And there's this like introductory page that really kind of gets into it. And then it goes flashback, and it's boom, boom, boom through the action stuff. And then at the end, it's back to them sitting at the, little table on their spaceship talking. And I was in range, but it was really close. It was up on the upper edge. And Zach and his wife basically just ripped the first introductory page off and the last conclusion page off and said, you don't need any of this rubbish. Get that out of here. Just have the action of the story without the introductory stuff. And so it brought it down where I think it's like 8,000 words or 7,500. So it's like way in range now. However, they were right. I get it. It would make no sense for characters somebody's never read to enter in and they're having a conversation. It means nothing, right? The story of the self-sacrifice is what mattered. And that was some really good advice. But I made it in limit. So.
Nice.
I think mine was similar. I think, Andrew, you had said in your beta notes, I think, to take off about, it was like a page early in mine or something. And it was definitely something I followed, which was good advice. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get to you in just, I don't want to, no. Liz, your turn.
Continue your thought.
Well, I was just going to say, it's when it comes to short or long short stories, they do read differently, right? Like if you're getting up into the novelette era, that's more where you can have a full story, the full beginning, a full middle, a full end, versus so many short stories are meant, when they're too super short, you got to dive right in. And we're all epic fantasy writers or science fiction writers. So we're used to, why would I shorten this? I finished the first draft. Let's add another 10,000 words. No big deal. We can. And
side quests.
Yeah, exactly. And, this whole section's kind of slow. Should I shore things up? No, let's add more into that section and just expand the thing, right? And who's going to tell us no, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a good challenge to get and have have that chance to really realize what scenes are really, really necessary. And we can't often do that by ourselves. That's why those beta readers are so important. They can tell you, did I really need to know about that? Mm-hmm. Or, boy, you really lost your character at this point. I think you're talking about your character. And so that we can kind of shore up things that we can't see, especially when we're on deadlines, right? Mm-hmm. How do you write a fast, short story and then be done so that beta readers can read it? But anyway, I digress. Liz.
So I was like 2,000 words over. And
even as a cozy writer?
Well, I cozy and epic.
Yeah.
Curse. So and my beta readers did not, I was like, hey, if there's any sections that feel like, they need to be shortened. Nobody had any like complaints or suggestions. And so I had to go in and like refine my writing with like a fine tooth comb to like pull out like any unnecessary words. So it was like it was a writing exercise for me to make it as like succinct as possible, because it had like a beginning, middle, and end. Like, I started as close, to the action in the middle as I could possibly start. So it was like a prose exercise of trying to cut like little filler words here and there. And I finally got it like right under. And I think when everyone was kind of worrying about getting it to the word count, Zach was like, it's okay if it's slightly. And I'm like, oh, well, I already got it under.
Too late.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the good news is you were not the only one who went over.
Yeah.
The not bad news, but other good news is because of that, it is a chonker of a book.
Yeah.
What did he say? It was 550 to 600 pages. So it's got
It's
to be
607 pages or something
607.
like that.
So that means it's got to be
Story content.
176,000 words probably.
Yeah, because there's like 35 pages outside of that that's like the author bios and all the other stuff. So it's like almost 650 pages. Yeah, and the art.
Well, yeah. Well, if it's 22 authors at 9,000 words, I mean, that's close to 200,000 word book.
It's a lot.
That's amazing.
Speaking of 9,000 word stories, Tori, how long is your story?
So I'm here to help balance things out a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. I'm an epic fantasy writer, but I very rarely pay attention to word counts. And so when we did Advent of Winter, that was the first time that I'd really had like the deadline and the word count limit and all of that. And that short story ended up turning into Cold Silver for Souls later on. This one, it was such an emotional, personal piece for me to write that I really just kind of zoned in, wrote what I had, and then looked at the word count. And it was like, I think I ended up around 5,500. So mine's probably the shortest short story in the anthology, I would guess. And I don't know, it just, I kind of looked at it and I combed over it and I was like, I don't feel like I want to add anything to this because I don't want to just add words to add words. And some stories, like this one's very intimate with an incredibly small cast. So I didn't really need the extra word count, but sent it to Andrew. Zach read it, and you know there were a few tweaks and stuff here and there, but I think everybody was pretty comfortable with leaving it as is. And yeah, so we were joking when everybody was talking about their word counts in the Discord. We were joking that I could take a few from somebody else because they were trying to all offload their extra word count.
So Tori, you wrote in the anthology with the first anthology at the end, this one. Is this everybody's like? Is this your first time writing short stories, or have you ever had your practice writing short stories, like even as you were starting?
Yeah, I wrote short stories early on in my writing career, so I'm a bit older than you guys, and I used to write short stories and then mail them off to magazines for trying to get published, and you never hear anything, but they were all short, and I have a handful of them, and a lot of them were mystery-ish, even some like crime stories and things that work well with a little quick twist at the end, and none of them have ever been published. I could see someday maybe putting them together in my own anthology, editing. I went back and reread some of them not long ago, and because I was thinking of submitting to another anthology that I didn't pursue, but I still like some of them. Looking at them, I like some good edits, and maybe do a ebook version someday. Who knows? But since then, so that was probably back in like 2005, 2006 or something. I did that for a little while and then moved to books and have never looked back. So
yeah. How about you, Liz?
I've had short stories in a couple anthologies, and I've produced 2 myself. Nice. I did one a couple years ago called Kingdoms of Wrath and Ice. It was fantasy about like wintry villains, which was really fun. And then the most recent one is the From the Academy anthology that Indie Fantasy Addicts just came out with. So I have a story in that one too. And I do write them occasionally. I'll write a short story as like a prequel, like a little freebie for like one of my series. And I think it's just fun to write like a little. It's nice to not have to write something that's like 100,000 words.
Yeah. Man. Are you a discovery writer or do you outline?
Definitely a pantser. So which I guess is discovery. I started off as a pantser, and I've tried to become better about outlining. So I'll generally do some bullet points for like my larger works, but for the short story, absolutely just discovery pantsing.
Thank you for being honest and using the term pantser, which I love that term. A lot of people get offended by it, but it's like, who cares? It's not like we're saying.
Yeah, no, I'll absolutely write the seat of my pants.
That's right. How about you, Tori? You've written short stories before.
I have, yeah. When I was in college, I had an English major in college, so there was a lot of like the creative writing aspect as well as the literary side of things. And I never went the route of doing like trying to publish any of them. It was more like college projects and just writing for fun, because I was usually working on some kind of bigger project. So the previous anthology was the first time that I've published a short story. And I think, as like we were talking about before, as an epic or longer form writer, I think it is such a good challenge to give yourself a limited space to see what can I tell in 5,000, 8,000, 10,000 words, and really engage the reader and make them interested in what's going on, and then leave them satisfied at the end, or, leading them into a larger work. So yeah, both of these have been really good. I had the moment. I'm also a pantser for the most part, and with the bigger books, I am starting to like writing an epic fantasy trilogy. I've realized that I do indeed need to have some bullet points now. But I think that it's been a really good. Yeah, I know. I still hold to that discovery writer title though, because with this short story, I literally just sat down and I just kind of opened the lid on the emotions of this last year and just wanted to see what I could create with it. And one of the really cool things that maybe it's not a spoiler for the story, but in the audio narration of the story, the main character of my story is a little girl, and my daughter actually got to narrate her for the audiobook, which is one of my favorite parts about this anthology.
Which made me cry again listening to her
she
talk.
did such a good job.
Yes.
She did I was such a proud mom.
After I edited it, I played it for my kids. I'm like, she's so adorable. They're the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a really good challenge, and it makes me excited to try writing some more short stories within my other existing universes and see what I can come up with.
Yeah. Cool. Bryan.
When I first kind of started writing as a hobby when I was a kid, teenager, I remember writing a couple, or just attempting just to do it for fun, a couple short stories. But other than that, really, no, I haven't written too many. And again, from what I said earlier, I think that's kind of why I was a little nervous coming into this, just because no experience with it whatsoever. And but yeah, as we discussed previously, just very fortunate to had some great beta readers, Andrew being one of them. And actually Zach's wife Brittany read my story, and she had what was probably the saving grace of an idea for my story. I went into it writing in my universe because I wanted to just having that uncertainty of not writing short stories. I wanted to just have that universe I'm already comfortable in. And but because of that, I kind of was writing it how I write my books, of just assuming that some of the readers are going to will maybe understand the universe, which isn't necessarily going to be the case here. And so she just threw a nice little curveball in there, that one simple change that would just help my story, I think, give it that great kick at the end. That's kind of a surprise tie-in to my series. So I was definitely very thankful for that. And yeah, I struggled a little bit. I'm the opposite of you guys. I'm a big time outliner. I'm currently working on the 4th book of my series, and I think I have close to 20,000 words written in just the outline. So
wow,
I go hard with outlining. But as I said earlier, I like those. I mean, of course, everyone can still write books like this. It's to what everyone's preference is. But for me, I love stories that kind of have tie-ins, earlier segments of the book that something might not make sense till later down the road. And so for me to do that for my own work, I need to kind of have it planned in advance. And and have the outline sitting there in front of me and kind of know where point A is for one character, what point B is going to be for them. But with all that said, I almost, coming away from writing this short story, I almost think I would have been better to maybe pants this thing when trying to write it, because just from a short story perspective, as you said, Andrew, it's not really that beginning, middle, end type thing. It's just kind of telling a little tale. And I think sometimes in that sense, it might almost just be better to go with the flow and just let it come out naturally, I guess.
So are there more short stories in the future now that you've tasted and seen?
There might be. So there's been talks. There's no definite thing of another anthology that I was invited into, and I wrote about half of that story so far. But I don't even know if that's going to become a thing. I just got invited into it, and I like the idea of it. So during some of my free time, I started writing it a little bit. But I'm definitely open to it. But I still think I need a little more practice. That's not to say I don't think my story ended up, coming out great in this one. But,
they make good reader magnets too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. How about you, Charles? Are you a pantser or plotter?
Yeah, pantser. And the term I had heard, there was an author, I can't remember his name, but it used to be on he was interviewed on the Joanna Penn podcast. She talks about indie writing, and he called it writing into the dark. And I love that. And that's how I see it. You sit down and I can see a little bit in front of me, and I'm always like trying to plan that, when I'm driving to work or whatever. Yeah. But to be honest, like I have no idea where I'm going most of the time, and it's terrifying. And right now I've got I wish, Bryan, you need to come out to Reno and teach me how to outline, because I have 2 books coming, one in each series, the mystery, where I'm going to do a dual time period murder mystery cold case, and I really need to outline that. And then my next space warfare group book, I've got myself in a big time corner at the end of what's called Piercing the Darkness, book 3. And I'm just sort of at a place where I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to figure it out. I've got, I'm 3 books deep and I'm in a corner and I got to figure it out. So there's a lot of noodling to be done down the road here to figure that out. It's terrifying, but interestingly, every book feels that way, I guess. And they in the end, I'm typically fairly pleased with the way the story ends. That when I mentioned like writing for like 20 years up until 2022 when I first published, during that period, I had a whole bunch of failed books, and the failures were plotting. I would write, and then it would just be like this. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know where to go. And I'd give up and start something else. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what to do. And I give up. And so Into the Darkness, which was my first published book, was the first one that I really completed a plot, completed the story, was really satisfied with it and excited about it. And, once you finish one, you kind of know how to do it after that.
Yeah. There's a really good book by Haley Ephron, who she wrote a book about writing mysteries, writing murder mysteries. Okay. And when you pick it up, you also then get access to worksheets you can download and print off. And it's everything from how to design your detective to when is the traditional time to drop your red herrings, and there's like 2 of those, and then so it gives you kind of a full arc for writing any kind of mystery. And then she's got a couple chapters on like the difference between cozy versus hard noir versus and how do you put all those together. But that's been a really good help. My wife's a mystery writer.
Oh, okay.
And she's a chaotic plotter, so she actually writes the last scenes first, and then writes all of these, and then goes through and smooths the whole thing into a single book. And I don't know how she does that.
She's amazing.
It's chaos.
That's wild.
But yeah, she is amazing. But she does a lot of plotting, and I'm a plotter too. But I've been describing it more for people as I'm a stage director, and I've got my bullet points. I have about a bullet point for every 1,000 words I write, and I then give my characters, the plot points and say, don't leave the script. Or don't leave the plot. You can do whatever you want inside of this, and then I just let them play. Okay. And that tends to prevents me from trying to tell them, oh, by this point, I want this scene, I want to have this argument between 2 characters. It's like that never works, because chances are they'll have had that argument much earlier, and then I have this gap that need to fill because of time frame I'm trying to set up for whatever the plot's happening.
Mhm.
But so yeah, I describe it as a stage direction, so that my actors can just do whatever they want. And if they're really good employees, I'll let like tertiary characters like get plot lines that they weren't going to have before because they've been good to me, and so I'll be good to them.
How many bullet points do you end up having when you start?
One for every 1,000 words. I'm so like I am very accurate. I'm not as accurate as JCM Byrne, who he always gets it within like 500 words. He says I'm gonna write 170,000 words, and it's 168
It's
period.
amazing. I don't
Like
understand.
on first draft. But he's a programmer too, so I think he has that ability to land that. Yeah.
Well, it's like Zach too. I think Zach said like all his main series, the Stone and Sky, all 3 books are within. It was less than 1,000 words of one
I remember
another.
him saying that. Yeah. I tend to be within about 10, depending on how big the book is. So like 150,000 word book that I'll plot out will be maybe 155.
Yeah.
Because early on, when I was getting going, I was writing short stories for myself, and I realized what my pacing tended to be, and it tended to be, if you could describe on a single sentence something, here are the things that occur, that tends to equal 1,000 words. Then I can say, okay, do I want this to be a fast chapter book where every chapter is 2,000 words, or do I want it to be a fat book where it's 3,500 words, so 3 bullet points per chapter? And I can say, okay, well, 150 bullet points, I'm going to have 50 chapters approximately.
So this is fascinating to me. It really is. So you would call those scene descriptions, like single sentence scene
descriptions? I call them beats. I call them my beats.
Sure. Okay.
Because and that's a super open-ended term, because like what's a beat on a stage is different than a beat in a book, and it's like you could call them scenes very easily, because like inside of a chapter, how many scenes do you have? Well, when you're looking at like stagecraft, a scene is supposed to be when another person enters the stage, you're now in a new scene. It's like, okay, for stagecraft that works. In books that doesn't. If it's these 2 characters are tying this chapter together, other people entering might be a plot shift, but it also might just be background noise passing through. So I'll call them beats, but I tend to rate them as bullet points. So like I've got 6 more books to write in my big series, and so I'm like not touching it until I've outlined all 6 books. So I've got a big fat spreadsheet right now of 1,500 things, and now that I'm almost done with that, I'm going to go through and then write like 100 words. This will be my first time doing 0 drafting, so I'll do like 100 words for every single bullet point, and just write a Bryan Wilson sized outline, so I really know what's happening, because I have so much I want to land, and I don't want to have any series bloat. Like I am very strict on, I won't do more than 200,000 words. I'd prefer 150, because I don't want my books to cost me so much that I can't make money on them. And then they start pushing the binding on the hardbacks, and maybe in 5 years we can do fatter books and not have them breaking the binding. But that's an issue that I've found with Book Vault, which I love. But like my 4th book, the hardback, the way that they bound them is they did end book, where the actual connection is actually at the end, not on the spine, and so you end up with this gap here, which is okay. I haven't had it break yet, but some people do not like that. But it keeps the spine from breaking.
Yeah.
So
I definitely suggest any new authors write shorter books for your debuts.
I agree.
I did the opposite. My first is 175,000 words, and it isn't the easiest to get new readers on a hefty book like that.
It was the beginning of a series too, right?
Yeah.
Well, then you look at like Ryan Cahill, and every one of his books is fatter, but his primary readership is ebooks and audio, so he's capturing minutes and pages read.
I'm actually trying to reduce the size of my books. First one was 130. I edited it down when I did the recovers and took like about 7,000 words out. Second book was a little shorter. Third book was shorter still. And then my mysteries, this latest mystery was only 85,000 words, which is really a good number for writing, editing, publishing. And then you can you have more fluff with playing with fonts and spacing and margins and things to have like a really nice 5x8, kind of feel. But that question again on your bullet pointing, do you do that, like you'll sit down for a couple weeks and that's your primary focus, or is it something you're doing all the time on the side while you're writing other things?
The latter. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't say it as much anymore, but I used to kind of say that I'm always writing 3 books at a time, which is not true. I'm writing 1 book at a time, and then I'll be doing prep work for other things. And that's also why I love I don't love when it gets too long, but like I have 2 books I've written right now that I'm not going to see published until April and summer, but they're already written because I want to do Kickstarters, because I want to make sure I have everything done. The fastest book I wrote was my Cozy, which I wrote last January. Was it 2 years? No, it was a year ago. Last January, and had it published by May. I do not recommend that to anybody. It just happens to be perfect. Like I was very happy with how it turned out, and things just went swell. And so I was able to get it published very quickly, not by like design. But I like if I've written a book, that's great because now I can hand it off to beta readers for several months and know that I can forget that it ever happened, and I can work on another project and not be obsessed about it. So when it does come back, I can be much stronger with my scalpel work when I go through and just start tearing it up, because I don't care anymore until I get back into it, as opposed to, if you read my beta, get on to it. Come on, I want to get back to it. No. Get multiple books going.
I've never done that. I probably work in the most, stressful, fast pace, write it as fast as possible, edit as fast as possible, publish as fast as possible, get to the next one. So, I mean, I have 2 that are coming out this year, February and November. And this one I wrote, so I finished and published Piercing the Darkness. I think it came out in February. This one launched in February. And then I wrote, edited, and published. This one comes out next week.
Nice.
So it's crazy. I don't recommend it.
Well, you're going to have to get those short mysteries written now, so you can bind them up and get more mystery readers.
Yeah. Trying to build that series a little bit.
Yeah. Liz, how you said you do your layout with vellum, correct?
Outlining or
your layout.
Like designing
for designing your books, because like Charles, you were talking about being able to play with font and whatnot, and Liz, you're using vellum.
So I am weird, and I use Microsoft Word to format my books. Okay. However, I did recently have a realization that I need to start delegating more. Mm-hmm. So I've now hired a formatter. I've been formatting my own books for 10 years now, and I have too many things going on. So I hired a formatter for my next 2 books. They're already done. It's so much less stressful. She uses vellum. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I also do a little bit of vellum formatting for a nonfiction publisher. It's called Free Grace Press. They do Christian literature or Christian nonfiction. Yeah. And I've been doing on the side quietly vellum formatting. So if anybody ever doesn't want to format their books, let me know.
Stressful.
How about you, Ryan? What do you use?
So my first book, when I first published and didn't know anything about publishing, I had hired someone to do it then, and they did a good job with it. The problem I had with that was then when I wanted to make some changes, or when I wanted to add, a also buy section once my later books started coming out, that made things a little difficult just because the person was kind of hard to get a hold of after that. And so at that point, I told myself I was just going to do what I think most, at least self-pub authors do, and format myself. And so I got Atticus, and I use Atticus for it. And for the most part, I enjoy it. It took a little getting used to it to start, and there was definitely a learning curve. But once I got it down, I kind of made myself a little an outline, if you will, a little document of just basically to make it easier for my next approaches using it. And the only thing that really bothers me with it, and no one else I've ever talked to has had this problem, is when I upload I write on Microsoft Word, and so when I upload my Word document to Atticus, for whatever reason, anytime I've ever done it, it takes about 20% of my italics and unitalicizes them.
I had the same problem.
Did you? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, because there were other people. I've asked so many people, and they say they haven't had the problem, or at least they haven't noticed it. And again, it's like a 2-hour fix because luckily you can search italics in Microsoft Word. So I just have to search every italic in my Microsoft Word document, and then I cross compare with wherever that is in the Atticus file. And so it adds about 2-ish hours of work when I'm formatting. But other than that, I would recommend it. I've once I got used to it, it's a pretty simple, complex system. I mean, and I get it done pretty quick.
Cool.
Granted, I'm not, mine are more sci-fi books, so I'm not putting I don't have chapter headers. I'm not doing the pictures. I assume it's still relatively easy with that stuff, but I'm not doing that in mine, so I can't speak as towards that.
Tori?
Just talking about formatting. I usually have somebody else format my books because outside of storytelling, I have a really hard time, especially with technical logistics type stuff, sequentially processing. And so it's just easier for me to have somebody else be point person on that to make sure that it actually looks like a book when it's done.
Yeah.
I can write the story, but then I need somebody else to help me like lay it out in book format. But we used Draft to Digital for the e-reader, and then we used I think you just used Affinity Designer, right?
Yeah. Affinity is fantastic, and we're almost to Black Friday, and they almost always put their entire suite on sale. So Affinity it's basically, they've got 3 programs, one which is a Photoshop, one's an Illustrator, one is a InDesign style, and they don't charge by month. It's one time only, and I think they're all like 180, and on Black Friday they almost always go for like 90 for all 3. And I love it because if you know Photoshop and Illustrator, InDesign, it gives you everything you need to do everything. The only thing I found that I dislike about it is that their Illustrator doesn't have a live trace, which ticks me off to no end because it's the one thing I need from Illustrator. And so instead I have to sketch something, pull it in, and hand trace it with vectors to get it. I hate it. But other than that, it's a great layout for books. And then you have a much finer control over your font size and all that. But
I do use it for YouTube thumbnails occasionally as well because it does double as kind of a Photoshop, which is nice.
It does, yeah.
But yeah. That's kind of my I write in Microsoft Word. I've been writing in Microsoft Word since I was like 9 years old. So like I can't switch at this point. I've tried Google Docs. I hate it. I hate Google Docs so much. But yeah, Microsoft Word is my writing space. And I love, so one of the things that I've found actually weirdly helpful that I mention every once in a while, because people don't usually think of it, but the white page drives me a little bit bonkers. And I love that Microsoft Word allows you to like change. And I know that's not the only program, but I often change the background to be more like parchment colored, especially for epic fantasy, which is kind of a fun little like visual.
So then you start writing in papyrus font so you can feel
no. No, I haven't done that for like 20 years.
You could be a monster like me and write in Comic Sans.
Nice.
Oh man,
I've heard that's really good for especially if you're if you have dyslexia. That Comic Sans is really good.
So I came across it. I forget. I heard somebody else saying it's good for writing in because it's a font that you don't want to look at, and you don't go back and like wordsmith your previous writing. So when you sit down to write, like I'll often go and I'll reread this chapter, and then you're tweaking it and stuff. So it's a font that you don't want to go back and reread, and you just jump in and you don't take it super seriously. You just get all those words out. So that's my little writing hack that I write in Comic Sans.
Nice.
I think I was listening to another author who they write in one font and then during edit they go to Comic Sans because then they're angry at it. And so then they'll just edit for editing's sake as opposed to looking at the story because they hate it so much. But just changing font during editing
Yeah.
is a huge advantage because it changes where all the words sit on the page. It's like I write in Scrivener and then move over to Pages, because just doing that changes where everything falls on the page, and so you're less likely to skim over your last and first words on the page. So you can find a lot more typos just by changing program or font or even size. You can just at edit, kick it up 2 points, and then you've got a totally different format. So you're separating yourself from the work. But well, we are nearing an hour, and I know we're all adults who have lives and children and whatnot. So in closing, please tell us, Liz, what you are working on or is coming out very soon.
I have a couple things going on the rest of the year. I have my next book coming out is the sequel to Flames of Gold. It's called Echoes of Silver, and the cover is just as epic. That's coming out on December 8th. And so that's the story world that my short story In Honor is featured in. And you can probably just check out my website, lizdelton.com, for all the info about that book that's coming out.
Sweet. Is it you or somebody else who has a Kickstarter coming out soon?
Well, I just closed one Kickstarter for the Library at the Edge of the Wood, which is a cozy fantasy standalone. But I did just put into pre-launch my next one, which is the Tea Shop at the Edge of the Wood, another standalone, and that is on Kickstarter.
Awesome. Very cool. Charles, what you got coming up?
Yeah,
next week.
I have a couple things. So next week, my second mystery comes out, Deliver Us from Evil, featuring Hank Lynn and the team, which was in the first book. So that comes out November 18th, which is actually more than a week away, I guess. And then the other thing I have, and I'm already working on book 3, so I'll do Hank Lynn book 3 here. And then Piercing the Darkness is coming out in audiobook this month. We just don't have a date, as you guys know, with Audible. If you've done Audible, it's impossible to predict a date. Peter Lepard, who did Zach's books, he's been reading these. It is incredible what he has done with these books. Can't wait to listen to this one. I have to, just today we've been talking, and I'll be doing that. So it should be up like maybe Thanksgiving or shortly after Thanksgiving. So the whole, everything published in that series will be on audiobook at that point. So those are the latest. Yep.
Nice.
Very cool. Brian.
For me, it's right now the main thing. We're currently working on the second audiobook of my series. The first one came out last month, like September 10th. The second book, The Son of the Prophets, we're working on that, trying to get that out. Hoping to submit it to Audible towards the end of the year. So as Charles just said, I don't know when that'll mean it'll come out, but it'll probably be sometime in January, I'm hoping. Other than that, I'm just writing away. Book 4, I kind of made it a focus this year. I published the 3 novels and the novella within less than 2 years of when my first book published. So I just went hard at writing for 2 years. And now I've made my approach this year, marketing and trying to get people actually reading the stories. So, which I've been having a certain level of success at. So I'm still writing book 4, but it's a little slower pace than I'm used to. I'm hoping to hopefully have that out next fall, get that out there. But for now, those are kind of the marketing, and then just working on the audiobooks have been my main goal.
Who's your narrator?
My narrator is Gabe Walsh-Shore. So he's pretty much an up and comer in the field. I was lucky to come across him on ACX, and he's kind of like a theater guy, and so he brings that too. And I've had nothing but people just absolutely loving what he's done with the audiobook of my first, because mine is very much a tough series to do. I mean, there is probably 50 plus characters just in the first book alone. It's and these are all with secondary to main characters. So it's a very big cast, and just the change of emotions, especially as you get deeper in, and that's what's been kind of blowing me away is in the second book. It's a little bit, I don't consider my first book young adult, and it's been what a lot of readers have said is it's kind of a weird place between young adult and adult. And that's kind of how I've always looked at it too. But once you get into my second book, there's very much a change of tone. gets much more mature, and that was all purposeful for the storytelling aspect of it. And he's just nailing going from that kind of wonder-filled in book one, a little bit of more just, I don't want to say less mature, but more naive kind of aspect to the main characters, to now just jumping right into the really what's more a little bit of a grittier story in book two, and he's nailing it.
Well, as a Red
Nice.
Rising fan, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's very similar in that sense, especially even how book one there's a lot of world building, but you don't quite see all of that just yet. There's a big percentage you don't see, and then in book two you're just like Golden Sun, you're launched right out into it. And I think that's kind of what gives my series the kick it does. I think it was actually kind of purposeful. Well, it was purposeful storytelling on my end, but I think it's probably kind of what was purposeful in the Red Rising as well. Is it just it gives it another punch, I guess you could say.
Cool. Tori?
I am currently working on book 2 of my Legends of the Bruhai epic fantasy trilogy. I don't have a release date, but it will be, if everything lines up the way I'm hoping, it will be a 2026 release. I am also working on, my next release will be a novella that takes place before the events of book 1, and kind of gives a little bit of extra depth to some of the character motivations from book 1. And I'm also in the very early stages of pulling together a full cast audio drama for Cold Silver for Souls, which I'm very excited about. So that's going to be, it's a very episodic, snappy action adventure fantasy Western with a lot of heart. And so I originally was going to read it myself, and then I was like, you know what, I want to do this, but I also want to bring in, there's such vibrant characters here, I really want to bring in more of a full cast kind of feel for it. And it's short enough that I feel like that's going to be attainable goal right now.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm very excited, and I'll be at Dragonsteel in December for anybody that's going to be at that.
That's right. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, in short, I've got a cozy that I'll be kickstarting in February, it looks like, called A Baker's Dungeon, about a pair of characters who open up a pie cart, and they used to be adventurers together, and now one of them's a working mom, the other one is her ex-thief from their crew, and they get involved in a bunch of city politics and wars between carts and all that jazz. And then the last book in my Needle and Leaf father-son adventure will be coming out middle of next year as well. So yeah, that's coming up soon. Well, thank you all very much for coming on. It has been an absolute pleasure to get to meet you all more. And everybody, please go down and follow on Instagram, YouTube, and more importantly, join our campaign on Kickstarter right now. It goes for another 16 days. And we're at almost just shy, I think, right at this moment of 35,000. And I don't see why we shouldn't just blow this thing out of the water. So please go down and follow our campaign and join in. And then also buy these authors' books directly from them when able. That is always best. And I've got the links down below for that as well. So thank you all for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day, everybody. And to quote Tori, 5-star reads all around.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Now we wave until